everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Throwing Bagels podcast. Kevin Mooney here alongside Jason Hamo. Hey, Jason.
Hello there, Kevin. How are you?
Hello. Wonderful. In yourself, sir?
I could be better, but I'm
better.
good otherwise.
I think we're going to get to that. We're going to plumb the depths of Jason's day.
Well, we don't want to do that.
Okay.
Could be a lot of swearing involved.
We might. Well, I'll have to mark this as an explicit podcast.
That's right.
And also with us, of course, Chris Douglas. Hey, Chris.
Kevin, how's it going?
Hey, it's going. It's going. You?
It's going. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things.
Normally during this part of the show is when we come on and we introduce our next guest. But, this time around, for the first time in a long time, the three of us are just going to shoot the breeze.
Did we run out of guests or something? Or?
Yeah, we ran out of guests.
Nobody likes us.
That's it. They just said, no, never heard of you guys. Not doing it. Oh, well. What are you going to do?
Tough. Yeah.
But, we thought, look, it's the week of Memorial Day. It's the unofficial / official start of summer, however you want to phrase it. So now the plans shift, your conversations at work maybe sometimes will shift to, hey, you got any summer plans coming up, what you got to do and where you going to go. And I thought that'd be a good place to start here for this edition of the Shooting the Breeze edition of the Throwing Bagels podcast. So, and by the way, last week was National Travel and Tourism Week. So I think we have to start there.
We do. You're right. Yes.
And I think we should start with, why don't we talk about the places that you'd love to visit, places that are on your bucket list, and places you have visited that are some of your favorite places that you visited. Now we have to rule out hometowns, where you live now. It's got to be, you have to do some traveling.
Oh, no one would want to live here. Why would anyone want to live in Syracuse?
Oh, I can speak for all three of us when I say none of us have a hometown that is overly appealing to many people.
And this is not even my hometown. I probably wouldn't even go back.
I'm talking about where you live now. I'm talking about where you came from. No, where your parents are from, Chris. That's a different story.
Now that's somewhere we can go.
And for the newcomers to Throwing Bagels podcast, Chris, where are your parents from?
So my parents are from this little Mediterranean country called Greece.
Never heard of it.
No, yeah, no kidding. The start of civilization. We basically invented everything.
Is that named after the city in upstate New York?
No. The upstate city in New York is definitely named after the country in the Mediterranean.
Oh, okay.
For sure. They're high school out there.
Tomato.
Greece, Athens. Yeah, I mean, whatever. Greece, Athens, in outside of Rochester there, if you're all wondering where that little town is in Greece, New York.
There's a lot of Greek influence in some of these cities, towns, villages in upstate New York. Marathon is a place in Cortland County. Cincinnatus, I think that might be Rome.
I think that's more Roman, but Ithaca is also Greek.
Ithaca.
Yep.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Syracuse is Italian. Yeah.
Syracuse.
It is.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Who knew that? I didn't. That's for sure.
So who's going to get us started?
I'll go. Okay. I mean, Greece is definitely on the list of places. Yes. I mean, when we talked to, Dan Platt in our last episode, I mentioned, traveling abroad, and I had mentioned I wish I would have done it, and I wish I would have gone to Australia and done it, or even London for that matter. But Australia is always been very high on my list. But I am going to London in a couple weeks, so there you go. So
that's cool.
That is that I'm scratching that one off the old bucket list.
That's cool. Well, I mean, London is definitely on my bucket list. Although I'd prefer to go to England like during the soccer season when a Premier League is going. Like that's, I think, doing like a little tour, like various cities in England would be cool. But I'm with you on Australia. And I've got actually a cousin that lives in Australia, so maybe I'll go pay her a visit in Sydney sometime. But that's yeah. But I think my number one place that I really want to go to is probably Iceland.
Mm.
Yep, that's high on the list too. I got a very, very,
So do
very
I.
long list.
You know what I do? And here's a little life hack. If you have like Google Maps or something, you can just like pin like the places you want to go and then just, unpin them or reverse somehow,
Yeah,
you know, I've been
reverse
there,
pin.
I want to go there, that type of thing.
Yeah, outside there's many locations outside of the U.S. that I have
Mhm.
not been to that I would love to go to.
Yeah, me
What
I
about
too.
you,
haven't
Kevin?
I haven't been to any locations outside the US.
Really?
Ever?
So,
Not
Nothing?
even
ever.
Canada?
No.
You've never been to Canada?
I don't even
Kevin.
have a passport, guys.
Kevin,
Dude,
get your
what
passport,
we
dude.
need to delve into this a little bit more.
Eh,
We need to go a little Dr. Phil in this one. Holy
Dr.
crap, what's
Phil,
going
you
on
can,
here, man?
I'm not, believe me, I'm not against international travel. And we would love to, Allison and I would love to go to Ireland someday.
Oh,
And,
That's on the list. Yep.
yeah.
that is number one on my list.
You might
And
want to get
then,
that passport first.
Yeah, seriously.
but listen, I mean, there's places in this country that I haven't been to that are on my bucket list, like going to the Grand Canyon or visiting where else? Just going to all the museums and stuff that are all over this
Mhm.
country. And I mean, we've been to Los Angeles. That was a heck of a trip out there. Allison actually won an auction to visit the set of NCIS Los Angeles. So,
That's
and
cool.
that's actually I'll save that for later. I'll save that for later. But that was like the furthest we've ever traveled is from here to and here to Hollywood,
Have
basically.
you have you been to at least the US side of the of Niagara Falls?
I was well Buffalo. I like Buffalo. You know what? I think Buffalo is a really great city.
It's
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 an underrated
underrated.
town.
It
It
is
It's an
is.
underrated.
underrated
Yeah,
town.
It's
it
very
is.
It's
underrated.
a small city, but
Mhm.
but it's a good
Yeah,
place to visit.
it is. It's got a lot of things to do actually. Uh, our friend Joe Yurden lives out in Buffalo and covers the Sabres during the hockey season, and yeah, I mean he loves it out there. It's really kind of up and coming. Much like Pittsburgh kind of back in the day was, and
Yes.
now it's like
Hmm.
on the up and up. So Buffalo is a lot the same, really similar to Pittsburgh in that aspect.
And Pittsburgh too is another. I mean,
Mhm.
even today,
Pittsburgh's
it's
a
another
great. I
great.
love
Oh,
Pittsburgh.
I love Pittsburgh.
It's a
I've
great
never been to Pittsburgh.
in
It's a place I like
if
to
you're
go to.
in the downtown area, it's a
Mhm.
really cool area.
Mhm.
The three bridges are right there, and you can walk across if you go to a baseball game or even a football game because the stadiums are next to each other. You could
Yeah.
walk across the Roberto Clemente Bridge, go back into downtown, and everything's right there.
Mm.
It's pretty cool. Yeah.
I'm reliving our crazy trip when we saw a couple of Genesis concerts, or 2021. Went to Buffalo and then Cleveland, and
Oof.
Cleveland's another great city.
Is it
Oh yes, I think
really?
we stayed downtown. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is a walk
Mhm.
from there. The aquarium, there's a Cleveland aquarium
Mm.
that was also
Mm.
really good. The baseball park is right there. We had to visit, of course, the Christmas Story Museum, which they show the house
Oh,
that was in the
really?
movie.
That's cool. Yeah.
It's right there in Cleveland,
Interesting.
so
I
it's
did
a
not know that.
museum. Yeah,
Uh,
Yeah,
have you guys like visited cities specifically for like stadiums and
I
like
did.
stadium
I have. Yeah,
experiences?
um, I've gone to a good amount. Me and a couple buddies, the two guys I'm going to London with, we've done at least half, if not a little more than half
Wow.
of all the stadiums.
nice.
We've done, I've done some without them. They've done a few without me.
Mm.
So, but I've been to probably more than half the stadiums. I've been to California. I've done Southern California. I've
Hmm.
done Minnesota, all the northern Midwest stadiums, all the Florida stadiums, and
Mm.
the Texas stadiums. So I've done a good portion of them.
What's your favorite?
Honestly, Pittsburgh is high up there.
Yeah,
That
That's a good
stadium is a
one.
beautiful
That's a good
stadium.
one.
Um, you can never go wrong with Wrigley.
Hmm.
I mean, best was my favorite actually is so I had my bachelor party was at Wrigley, but we did it on a rooftop, on one of the
Oh
rooftops across the street
man.
from Wrigley. So, we were on the rooftop right across the street from Wrigley watching the game, and then all you can eat, all you can drink for like basically for like hour and a half before the game starts until like the seventh inning or something like
Oh my
that.
God.
That was
No one
interesting.
fell off the roof.
No one fell off the
It's
roof,
good. It's
but
Amazing.
good.
it was a good time, and you see
It's
all
an
the people
upset.
that are sitting in the bleachers and everything like that, and you can literally yell to them, and they can hear everything you're saying. So it's pretty cool.
Kevin, do you have a stadium that you liked in your travels? You haven't really been to any, no?
I
Shea?
mean,
Shea Stadium
of
back in the
course,
day?
well, of course, Shay.
That was
Start
that was a
many times.
dump, but it was a beautiful dump.
Back in my
It
day,
was.
it was $6 to sit in the upper deck. So that's where I would sit. I would sit up there. I remember cutting school in 90s, well, 96. We were
I did
graduating
that.
high school, so we cut class. I think Jason and I were at that game.
Yeah, opening day.
Opening day.
The Ray
That's right.
Ordonez throw from his knees.
Yep. So I've been there. I was at City Field. I was at the old Yankee Stadium. I don't think I've been to the new one. And
Hmm.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh. Those are the only major league teams I've seen at this
Yeah.
point.
Nice. If you guys get a chance, Oracle Park in San Francisco is the best
Hmm.
ballpark in the country.
Yeah,
Baseball
I
stadium.
went there, but I never went. I'd never been to a game there yet. Like I went there.
Oh,
Me and my wife, we went to in like, was it November of 22? I think it was. We
mm,
went there, and I walked around, and I just like she was in a conference, so I just
mm.
walked around outside the stadium, taking and stuff. Uh, and it was cool. It was like just towards like really like when everyone was just starting to get back into like fully,
Yeah.
but
Mm.
California was kind of like the latest adopters of like really getting back into everything.
Yep.
So I asked if they were doing tours, and like, no, it's still COVID. We're not doing tours. I'm like, okay.
So a cool note about that ballpark, the Coca-Cola bottle and the glove that are in left field
Yeah.
past the bleachers, it's actually a slide for kids.
Is it really?
Yeah,
Ah,
Oh, that's pretty
it
cool.
is. It's really cool. It's a little play area for kids there. It's a
Oh, no
really
adults
neat
allowed though?
concept.
Because I would love to do that.
I try, but there's no way I would fit.
Oh, really?
It's
You
just
know,
it's a little too compact.
speaking of slides, I'd love to go down the slide in Milwaukee. That seems like a cool slide.
Yes, of course. Of course. Yeah.
I'll dress up as the brewer guy
I would
and
too.
go down the
I would
slide.
definitely do that.
yeah, exactly. Sign me up. All right. So now we talk about traveling, and how about traveling pet peeves?
Oh.
I'm sure you got, whether it's driving or flying or bus, train, whatever. What are some
Yeah.
of your pet peeves? Maybe your horror stories. I'm sure there's always some of those.
I think you got to break it up into two categories. You got to break it up into driving and then
Yeah.
everything else.
Yeah.
Because and I've seen this, so I'll talk about airplanes here specifically. I've seen this on airplanes. No one wants to see your feet, dude. All right. Put your socks back on, put your shoes back on. It's a 2-hour flight. It's not that deep. And don't put your foot up on my armrest. Okay. Or else I'm
Ooh,
gonna
who did
smash your
that?
toes.
Someone did
I'm
that?
telling you that
People-
happens, and it happened.
No.
I can't believe
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
Come
Get
on.
get your fungus filled foot off of me.
Gross.
I don't even want my wife's foot on my armrest, let alone someone else's, some random person.
Yeah, it was nasty. He wasn't the healthiest looking guy either. It's like, dude, get your stubby toes like away from me, man.
Oh.
Like, get out of here. Just get out of here.
Man.
Nasty. Gangrenous toes and nasty. But yeah,
Wow.
that happened to me while flying once. I don't think it
God.
was a cross country flight. It was a short flight. So I think it was probably going to like Florida or something to visit my mother.
I can't remember any like huge horror stories flying that I can think of. Time I mean, I don't mind. I mean, this is obviously some people would care about this. To me, I don't. I guess once you have kids, you don't really care about it as much. But like the baby crying on a plane, like some people,
Yeah,
there are people that like flip out when
they
that
do.
happens, and it's like, dude, what are you gonna do? It's a baby. Like we were all babies at some
Right.
point.
Yep.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, so I'll tell you a story. So it's not a horror story. It's actually a good story. But like my daughter was born, and like 6 months, she's 6 months old. We took a flight down to go visit my parents in Florida, and we're we go to sit down, and my wife's seat, the cushion was broken, so she had no, they literally couldn't sit on the
Oh,
seat. Like
wow.
there was no cushion there. And we turned to the flight attendant, and we're like, I don't know what we're supposed to do here. Here. And she's like, and my wife pulled the, I'm a new mother. Like, I refuse to fly without my husband next to me,
Well done by
Meanwhile,
her.
I'm like wearing my daughter, you know, and they ended up bumping us up to first class on the flight down.
Whoa, that's
Yeah. So
awesome.
so my daughter, 6 months old, got to fly first class on my first time ever flying first class.
Privileged.
Yeah, right. She's never flown first class again, by the way. But yeah, so I mean, that it's not a horror story, but that was actually one of the better
That
flying
is
stories I've
cool.
ever had. We
Yeah,
just
that's a
got
really cool
lucky.
one.
On the
Yeah.
way home, we tried to ask for first class again. It didn't work.
All you can do is ask, right?
Yeah,
right.
we
That's the
tried, but it
worst.
didn't work.
Yeah.
So
I can't, I no one now I don't travel a whole lot, but I travel to an annual conference, at least one annual conference a year, and haven't really encountered much, but like pet peeve stuff, which we'll get to. But there was one actually. I mean, this is another pet peeve thing, but people who are talking on their phones, like when you're in an air, when you're in the air, like
mm.
this guy was just talking to somebody, and he just kept saying, "Right, right, right,
First of all, you're not supposed to be talking to anybody you're
Right.
not
I
supposed to be
mean,
on the
right,
phone when you're
no, not at
flying.
all.
right,
Did you want to throw punch him? I mean, I
right,
would have.
right, right." Oh
Oh,
yeah, yeah, right.
come on.
Seriously?
I was ready to kill
That's
him.
ridiculous.
It was a 90-minute flight, and like so yeah, so and like we went through some turbulence, so there was some noise, and then as the noise faded away, right,
Right.
right, awful. Um, but another one that sticks in my head, I was actually taking Amtrak down, I forget, Amtrak up to see Allison, or like this was back when like I was in New York City, she was in Fulton, I think. Um, and there was a guy behind me who must have had like a salami sandwich or a bologna, and he just kept belching. And all I could get was this rancid stench of salami,
Oh
and
man.
that was just so gross. I wanted to
Oh.
turn around and say, "Stop belching."
Yeah, nope.
Nasty.
That reminds me. You just put that one in my head. When we were flying back from where did we go? Oh, from our latest trip to Florida in March. Some dude must have bought a tuna sandwich in the airport.
Oh, come
Oh
on.
And I'm
God.
like, he's like,
No.
and I'm like,
No.
really, dude?
You
You're
can't do
gonna, of all
fish.
the sandwiches you're gonna buy in
No.
the airport, and
Yeah.
then decide you're going to save to eat on the plane, you're gonna choose tuna?
Dude.
I wanted to take that and just throw it in the garbage.
I mean,
Kevin
but that
sliced and
that should be a
diced.
rule, right? About food, bringing like certain
Yeah.
food items on the airplane or even a train, I would say. Dude, you
Yeah,
can't bring fish on, man. I
no,
love fish. I love seafood. I'm not doing it on the airplane.
no.
Like that's just a common courtesy thing, right?
Especially after it's been sitting in like your bag
Oh,
for like a good half an hour or whatever, letting
oh,
it
it's
like,
all
yeah, like if it's one thing if you're eating it, even I mean, you still can't do it, but it's one thing if you're like literally eating it like fresh, but not after it's been sitting in there for a little while and then you have to open it up and now the smell just wafts out and hits everyone in the face.
it became a tuna melt.
Disgusting. And I like tuna.
I love tuna.
It's
Yeah.
gross. Yeah,
That
that
is
guy deserves
nasty.
a punch
Yeah,
in
you
the
can't do
face.
that. No, yeah, seriously. Yeah. No, he needs to get throw punch right in the just
Yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely a big pet peeve of on flying. I don't um I haven't really encountered many of Chris's feet issues, but
Look,
I
well,
have I definitely concur with it. If you're gonna fly, definitely
uh,
that's definitely not something you can do, you know.
and also the feet or the knees in the back of the chair too.
Mm.
Like that, dude. You're
Yeah.
testing people.
Yeah.
You're testing their patience.
Mm.
Now, if it's a
Or the or
kid,
the
okay.
or the people that have like the loudest conversations. Like they're basically screaming to each other and they're sitting right next to each other. And it's like,
Yeah.
are you serious right now? Like can you not? Can you talk like a civilized person? I mean, I'm a loud person. I know it, but still, on a plane, I don't talk that loudly because, I'm literally like an inch away from the person that I'm
Yeah.
talking to.
Aisle or window?
Ooh.
I like the aisle.
Mm,
Yeah, I used to like the window, um, but I think I'm more of an aisle person now.
why is that?
It's not as confining. I'm
Okay.
tall,
Hmm.
so I like to kind of, I'll kind of put my knee out into the aisle a little bit. Hopefully, it doesn't get run over
Mm.
by anyone. Food beverage cart.
Yeah.
I can get
Bang.
up and move around,
Yeah, yeah, you have that
without
freedom.
bothering anyone. Like
Well, that's
it
the
doesn't
thing.
bother me it doesn't bother me as much if someone wants to get up
Yeah,
and, and I'm sitting at the aisle, like I don't mind that as much, but I hate being the one that is like climbing over people. Like
Mhm.
yeah, yeah.
being at the aisle, I can
I'm
just
the
get up
same.
and move and not have to worry about it, and they don't have to climb over me or anything like that. So
I am team window. I like to just basically lean against the side, look out the
Mm.
window. Don't nobody talk to me. Don't look at me. Don't don't engage.
I get that
Just
too.
leave me alone.
Yeah, yeah.
And I try not to drink a lot before getting on the flight so that I
That's
don't have to
key.
get up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's key.
try flying with an 8-year-old.
Well, yeah, of
I
course.
gotta go to the bathroom every five
Yep.
seconds.
That's
Been
not
there,
your
done
fault.
that.
Yeah. So that makes sense for you then to have the
Yeah,
aisle. Yes, of course. But if I'm by myself, just give me the window and that's it. I'll just stare out of it and
yeah. No, I get that. I'm okay with that too. Like, I'll take the window seat at
Mhm.
some but I don't really sleep well like leaning against
Mm.
like the window, so it doesn't really. But yeah, but then I know like for that case, like I can't. I literally like don't drink much before I get on the plane just for that
Yep.
reason, that because I don't
Yep.
want to be that person that's going every 5 seconds. Excuse me,
Yeah.
excuse me. You know,
Uh, it's like being at a game, all right, a ball game, and you're sitting on the end seat.
yeah,
So then you always have to get up. Anytime someone gets up,
yeah.
you have to get up. And but there's I would rather do that. I would rather sit on the very last seat and have to get
Oh
up
yeah,
than have to get up from the middle of the aisle and have to, you know,
Yeah.
I
work my
purposely
Supporting
way
look for
people's
over
aisle
it.
feet.
seats.
Yeah.
Yeah, I purposely look for aisle seats
Yeah.
when I go to bowl
Yes.
games or something like that,
Yes.
Exactly.
just to be able to like, and if I'm going with a group of people, I try to like look for like a bunch of seats right into the aisle,
Mm.
just because I don't want to, I've been that person. I'm not usually the person that's sitting like on the aisle or in that general vicinity,
Mhm.
and like there's always that one person that's constantly getting up and walking, and they're like, oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. And then they come back, and then they go again, and then they come back, and then finally they come back. They're like, "This is the last time." I'm like, "Are you sure? Because you've gone
Why
8 times already."
Yeah.
why are you here? What
Yeah,
do you know any of what you paid to see? Have you seen any of that go on at this point?
I'm gonna buy you a diaper. Jeez.
Just being your empty cup. Crying out loud.
It is. It's the people who get up. They stand in line for half an hour to get their 3 4 beers
Mm.
for the group, and then they go back down. They sit down. They get right back up again as soon as the beer's done. They go back in line for another half an hour. It's like, are you watching any of this game
Yeah.
or the
No, I
concert?
I mean, I get on that beer line, but yeah, it's rough sometimes. Sometimes the beer line is like way too long.
Oh no. Concerts too. Concerts amaze me. You're paying a lot of money to see a
Yeah.
performance,
Yes.
and you're getting up and running back and forth to the
I
concession stand. It's
Yeah.
like, come on.
I don't even go to the bathroom during a concert.
Yeah.
No, I don't
Generally,
either.
generally during a concert, I will usually not get up and go get a drink. Like I'll
Right.
buy like one or two before the concert starts, and then that's it. But or depending on if it's like an opener and I don't really care about the opener, then that's a different story.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But by the time the main act is coming on, that's it. And like, I'm in my seat. For a game, I'm more apt to like be able to get up and like go get something just because you can hear the game. They have the game playing on in the background usually around
Mhm.
you, whatever. So, they have TVs. So I'm more apt to do that. But like even then I don't like to miss too much.
Yeah.
Right. Right. I'm the same way. I'm the same way.
Speaking of people getting up to go to the concession stand and over serving themselves. Remember Kevin and when we went to the Rangers Devil game back in like winter of winter of 97. go right before we were on winter break, and me, you, and your friend Joe went
Yes.
to the Ranger Devil game,
Yep.
and that guy sitting behind us was a little overserved, and he kept like tapping me on the head.
Yeah.
Oh no.
We were like, mm,
Oh
That
no.
was bad news.
yeah.
This
Uh,
Devil fan sitting with his Ranger girlfriend.
You wanted to fight him, didn't
Oh,
you?
I wanted
oh
to punch him in the
yeah.
face so badly. You have no idea.
Yeah.
It took every ounce of, and I'm not a violent person, but it took every ounce of energy in my body not to turn around and
Yeah.
just punch him. I actually did shove him at one point because I was like, "Stop touching me!" Like
I,
literally just kept tapping me on the head.
yeah.
It
And
was it was
Ugh,
you know what? And
worst.
that's one of the reasons why I don't go to these rivalry games anymore. I used to try to go to the Subway Series every year.
yeah.
No, I went to the first maybe two or three of them, and I kept seeing fist fights left and right. I'm
Oh
like,
yeah.
you know what? I don't need this. I don't need
Yeah.
this anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Bye bye.
I went to a lot of them, and it was always fights. I went
Uh,
And
to for a long time. I even went to Yankee Stadium for a few, and yeah, but I haven't been to a Met Yankee game in ages. At this point, it's not even. I don't find it like any more enjoyable than going to see another a regular any other type of game.
and those types of things you guys are talking about are pretty mild compared to what happens in like Greece, like
oh
when there's
yeah.
rivalry
Oh, I
teams
can't
playing.
imagine.
They actually they've outlawed traveling supporters from going to the stadium when the like a rivalry game is going on. They call it
Yeah.
a derby. Um, because it's to prevent like an all-out war from
Mhm.
happening in the stadium with Molotov cocktails flying from
Jeez.
one
See,
end of the
that's just I don't get
stadium to
it.
the other.
I don't get it.
It's yeah, yeah.
I don't understand how like I know it's a that because it's a big soccer thing. Like I don't get the whole what's the point of fighting and over like the fans
It's
getting like going after each other and like literally like beating the ever living crap out of each other. Like I don't understand it.
it's tribalism.
But it doesn't make any sense.
Oh,
Like what's the point?
I
What's the
agree. It
point?
doesn't make any sense. It's silly.
Like
Uh,
I watched Welcome to Wrexham,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And there was, and I think it was the first season. There was, I remember, one of the, opposing teams came, fans came, and like they had the cops, literally separating. Like these fans took the train in, to Wrexham, and they would block off an area so the fans could. And I guess at one point, like one of the fans from Wrexham and his one or two buddies like literally beat the ever loving crap out of some guy. He ended up getting arrested and he was literally banned for life from going to a
Yes.
Wrexham game
Yeah.
from that point
That
on.
it's those types of things happen because there's a bunch of knuckleheads. Like in any other sporting event, there's just a few bad apples and it just sets things off. But in the case of like the case in Greece, like I swear to God, it's it's never going to evolve. It's literally like gangs. Like it's pretty bad sometimes. Like the some of the songs, some of the the chants that they do, it's um vulgar to put it
Yeah.
mildly.
Yeah.
And your mother this and mother bleeper this and mother bleeper that, and it's like, yeah, I mean, look, you're there to support your team. Just support your team. Sing the
Right.
songs, fine, whatever. It's just don't throw Molotov cocktails at people
Yeah. Yeah.
before, during, or after the game.
Like that has to be said, apparently.
Yeah, like it does, and like it, and I'll give you a for
Please
instance,
don't
like
light me on fire.
oh
the
man.
the Greek Cup final, Panathinaikos versus Adi, no fans in the stadium because they don't want
Really?
violence. They don't want the violence in the stadium.
But
So just
that
no
just sucks for
fans
the
at all.
players. That just sucks for the players.
I think it's terrible. You can't. You got to have. I thought we were talking about sports, but anyways, here we are.
It always comes back.
It does always come back, but it's like you're taken away from the players. You're taken away from the fans too,
Yeah.
because the majority of the fans actually want to go there and support their teams.
Right.
And to have no fans in the stadium, it just takes away from the whole occasion. I think it's ridiculous, but
No, I don't get it.
and the fact that you don't have the safety measures and mechanisms in place to prevent things from happening like that, then that says something about the governing body and the government itself too.
Yeah, and it's also like they have those bars. Like I mean, I don't know. I'm sure they have it everywhere, but like I've always heard about them in like in like England or whatever, like those, team bars, right? Where
Oh yeah.
the people, the fans are watching the games. And like, if you're the wrong fan, you walk into one of those bars, like
Yeah.
be
Mhm.
careful. You know what I
There are
mean?
signs. There are signs outside that say no colors, which means don't wear your team's colors in this bar. Period.
Like, what happens if you're just wearing a shirt one day that happens to be the color of
But
another team
but
and you're
if you
not even a
do,
fan of that team?
I mean, but if you do, well, I mean, okay, that's different. But if you do, like, where to go and not go, like
Yeah,
you're gonna steer away unless you're looking for trouble, which some
right.
people do. You're gonna steer away from that.
Or
So
you're an out of towner and you just have no clue.
yeah, that too.
I'm going off on a tangent. So it's just a completely unrelated story, but still with sports. It's close enough,
Transition.
right? Transition. I forget how old I was. I was probably in my early, so it must have been like early aughts. I was at a Mets game at Shea. Managed to catch a T-shirt that was fired up from the field, and there was someone next to me was like, "Oh, well, give it, my daughter's right," like some 8, 6, 7 year old girl. I'm like, "Yes, it's yours. Here,
Mhm.
take it." So he said, "Oh, thank you so much. I'm gonna go get you a beer." And so I happen to look in the tunnel as he's on his way back. He's got 2 beers. I see him take a swig out of both, and he
No,
gives me one. He's like, "Here you go." And I'm like, "Thank you." I put it down.
I'll put it right over here. Yeah, that's nasty. Come on,
I'm glad I
man.
saw him do it. He could have done it before he ever got to the tunnel.
Why would you do that? Why would you take a swig out of both of them?
Probably didn't
Why
realize
not?
it.
So I'm just glad I was looking right where I was when I was.
Yeah, right. Thanks, pal.
Thanks, buddy.
So weird.
But and so she unrolled the T-shirt, and it had nothing to do with Mets. Nothing. There was nowhere. It was just
Oh my
Pepsi this,
God.
Pepsi that. I'm like, oh well. I'm glad I gave it away. Man, time is flying here on this. What do we call it? Shooting the breeze edition of the Throwing Bagels podcast.
Sure.
Let's
Hey,
talk. I think we'll
Jason
wrap
has
it
another
up.
word for it.
Yeah.
I was gonna say it, but I'm not gonna say it.
So let's talk about, and this was a great suggestion by Chris. He said, let's talk about some celebrity slash athlete encounters. So I have a few, but I think let's start with Jason. So Jason, what was your story from way back when?
Oh, okay. So when I was a kid, I was probably like 12 years old, somewhere in that range. Um, my dad got tickets to a Yankee game, and we're sitting along the left field line, pretty much like a row or two off the field on the left field line, like deep down in foul territory. And Luis Polonia, this is like, Luis Polonia was on the
Luis
Yankees.
Polonia.
Yeah, this is that long
Whoa.
ago. This was, so uh me and my buddy, who are both Mets fans, aren't rooting for the Yankees. So we're just giving Luis Polonia the business. We're just yelling at him. We're just being
11-year-old
like,
Jason.
we're just yelling at him, being like, you blah blah blah, you stink. You're horrible. You know, I think after, couple innings of hearing us yell at him constantly, he finally had enough of it. And next thing you know, he just turns and flips us the bird. And we're like, he just flipped us bird. We're like, we're like screaming at him and stuff like that. And no one else saw it except for us. And we're like, he just gave us the finger. You suck. And screaming at him. And he's laughing. So yeah, that was the only time. That was the only time that's ever happened before. I had one more story. Remember, Kevin might remember this one. Oh, we went to a Binghamton Mets game,
Oh yeah, I remember that.
and in today's day and age, I'd get kicked out of the stadium very quickly for this one. But we were sitting, I don't know, we couldn't have been more than 4 rows behind home plate,
No.
and it was the Mets versus Yankees. It was Binghamton versus, was it Trenton at the time? I don't remember if they were Trenton
Uh,
yet at that point,
mm,
but it was Mets versus
can't remember.
Yankees.
Yeah.
And if you remember if you remember Shelley Duncan, he played who was a Yankee farmhand. and his dad was Dave Duncan, the pitching coach. And I'm giving him the business and I'm screaming at him every time he comes up to bat. I'm like, your parents named you a girl's name.
Oh no. Oh
And I'm just
no.
yelling. The umpire and the catcher were laughing hysterically. Like you could see them laughing. And he just, to his credit, man, he didn't turn around. He didn't say a word. I give him a lot of credit because I was giving him the business. And in today's day and age, I'd have gotten kicked out of the stadium very quickly. But
Yes, and rightfully
and
so.
I actually
Right.
kept it somewhat clean, I think, because I remember there were
Mhm.
kids around us. So
Yes.
I actually tried to keep it pretty clean,
Mhm.
but I was definitely giving him the business for a while.
Now, Chris, the whole ballpark heard him because it's a small ballpark, so
Right.
everyone
Yeah.
heard him.
It's Binghamton. I mean,
Yeah, like what they see 3,000 people, maybe 4,000 people. I think everyone in the building heard him get on Shelly Duncan.
so 11-year-old Jason Hamill is not much different from
No.
40-year-old Jason Hamill while he's at the ballpark.
No, definitely not. No, yeah, I don't know. That was a long time ago. That was probably a good 10 to 15 years ago, I feel like.
Hmm.
But yeah, that was a good time.
I don't think Shelly Duncan agrees.
Where is he now? He's managing AAA Scranton, isn't he, for the Yankees?
Is he
Is he their
really?
manager? I think so.
Oh, well, his career never amounted to much.
Wow. Jesus. Shelly, for listening.
We're sorry.
Jason's views do not represent those are the Throwing Bagels podcast.
He's in New Jersey, Shelly. He lives in New
Oh,
Jersey.
God. Oh, he's your neighbor.
I live right near the Somerset Patriots,
Oh no, he's your neighbor. That's probably where he is.
right near the Double A team for the Yankees now. What
I
about
don't
you,
know.
Chris?
So I have a couple of encounters, both with athletes. Um, so about, I mean, I want to say almost 10 years ago, I was in Vegas with some friends and we were at MGM and we went to eat at the steakhouse there. And, we were eating and then we look across the room and Charles Barkley's hanging out over there. So we went over and said hello to Chuck. And he was really cool. He's one of the nicest athletes I've ever met. Really nice guy. So
I saw him
that's
in New Orleans also.
yeah,
The
like
Final
he's really
Four.
cool. Really
Yeah, he's
nice
nice.
guy. Excellent, just excellent encounter. And my second really big encounter for me anyway, on a personal level, was meeting US men's national team World Cup goalkeeper Tim Howard
Nice.
That's cool.
before he became the Tim Howard. So he was I don't know where he played before he started playing with at the time was the New York, New Jersey Metro Stars. They had a friendly match in Albany against some team from Massachusetts, but they were playing at a local high school there. And after the game was like a meet and greet type thing. And that's where I met him. He was like 18, 19 years old, something
Oh,
like that. He was a young dude, but hey, I met the future all-time singles game record holder for saves in a World Cup game. So that's
Yeah,
pretty
against
cool.
Portugal, right? Wasn't it against
It was
Portugal?
against Belgium.
I remember a game against Portugal too, where he had like a crazy, crazy
Yeah,
good
was
game
that?
also.
Yeah. Yeah, he had some really good games in the national team colors. Very good. But yeah, so Charles Barkley and Tim Howard. How about you, Kevin?
that's very cool. Well, I mean, there were a lot of people I ran into working at the Fan, of course, between Mike Francesa, Chris Russo. Um, but I would say, well, let's get back to what I mentioned earlier in the podcast. So Allison won an auction to visit the set of NCIS Los Angeles. So we got there. We got to meet Chris O'Donnell, LL Cool J, there, and they were all great people. We got to watch them film an episode, so that was pretty exciting. Chris O'Donnell came up and said, "Oh, you're visiting from out of town?" And he said, "Yeah, we're from visiting from upstate New York. He said, "Oh yeah, my aunt lives out in the Albany area." I'm like, "Oh,
That's
there you
funny.
go." You never know. But and when I was at the Fed, I would when I would work. I worked at night, so I would never see a lot of the morning crew. But sometimes I would have to work midday or morning because someone took vacation. So there would be Imus would come out of the control room once in a while, and we were told not to look Imus in the eye. By the way, once in a while I would give him a nod and say, "Hey, what's up?" Or actually, and one day I was sitting in the newsroom and the phone rang. I picked it up and he said, "Hi, I'm looking for Don Imus." And I said, "Can I ask who this is?" And I said, It's George Carlin." So I wound up talking to George Carlin for a couple of minutes. That was amazing. I was beside myself.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I mean, he was just such a great guy. We were talking, and he's like, "Yeah, listen, George, I love your albums. I have a couple of your albums. Could you, if I leave them here, would you sign them or whatever?" He said, "Yeah, absolutely, I'll do that." It turned out I left him at the wrong desk, and he never saw them. So never signed him. That's okay. But it was just to get to talk to him.
That's pretty cool.
That is, yeah. And I transferred into IMS successfully, so that's
there you go. That's always important.
The technology worked. Yes, the most important part of that.
I ran into Robin Williams once after his one of his because I went to one of his comedy shows back in it was at this place called Town Hall in Inman, and me and my buddy just happened to like see him leaving, right as we were walking away, and my buddy took a picture with him. He was really nice, and yeah, I loved Robin Williams. So he was like one of literally my favorite comedian.
Mm-hmm.
So be able to like meet him like that, that short period, that was pretty cool.
Yeah. My first job out of college was with Major League Baseball radio. So I was in Midtown Manhattan, and like John Kruk would come in to host the show every now and again for like. So like him and I just standing outside, like talking baseball. I'm like, does it get any better than this?
That's pretty cool. That was really cool.
Yeah, that was, and they had, there were people coming in, people that were big baseball fans, like Emmylou Harris, country music star. She's a big baseball fan. We had her in studio. Alice Cooper is another huge baseball fan. So he was in there. But I think probably it was like a 1 in a million, but for one of my play-by-play broadcasts at Cornell, my partner for a few minutes was Doc Emmerich.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, because this was during the lockout. Was it a lockout? The NHL, that there weren't any.
There was a lockout. Yeah,
in the early 2000s.
So it was 20
the mid 2000s, like the mid
yeah. So they were doing college hockey. So Doc was calling college hockey games, and they were calling the Cornell men's game, which was after the Cornell women's game that I was calling. So like I went back and forth with ESPN and was able to schedule, like I was able to get him to pop on to our broadcast for a few minutes just to talk. And that was that was a heck of an experience right there.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So Doc was, I mean, he's a legend. So to be able to work with him, it's a 1 in a million. That'll never happen again. Well, it won't ever happen again. So, he's retired and I'm not doing games anymore. But for like, think of all the things that had to happen for that to come together. So,
and then the Penguins cheated and got back-to-back first-round picks for number one overall picks after they got Sidney Crosby the year before. Then they somehow were able to get Evgeny Malkin the year after that because they just gave them the first pick again in the draft.
Cheaters,
jerks.
But yeah, that's those are some of the biggest ones that I've had.
Pretty cool. Well, I think we put together a pretty cool list right there.
I think so. Well, guys, I think that'll do it for this edition of the Throwing Bagels podcast. You can find us online, throwingbagels.com. Email, of course, as always, throwingbagelspodcast at gmail.com. And by the way, thank you, Peter Curries, former fellow Oswego grad, former WTOP GM, for reaching out to us by email. Peter will be on the Throwing Bagels podcast in the near future. Stay tuned.
Stinky
so, yes.
Pete.
Yep. So send us an email and we'll receive it and we'll respond to you. How about that? So it's just that easy. And find us on YouTube too. We added that as a new social media presence. So you can follow us at Throwing Bagels. Like and subscribe, of course. That was a great Memorial Day edition. I'm glad we got a lot off our chests.
Yes. Yeah, we did.
Spit it all out.
Spit it
Pet
all out.
peeves and all.
Oh, man.
We didn't even get to the driving part of the
I
No,
got
we
lots
just-
of pet peeves.
we can save that one for another time.
Yeah, we can. Driving pet peeves. There's a long list of them.
We can do a whole
What,
episode
walking
on
pet
that.
peeves. I got a lot of
Walking pet peeves. Oh yeah, just God, we're getting old, man. We're just getting old.
Like when they walk on my lawn.
My fist is all the way up
Slow
in the
walkers,
clouds.
man. Slow walkers.
You can't be a slow walker in New York, all right? That
You're
100%,
dead. You're
dude.
dead.
Yeah, head on a swivel and keep moving.
And don't make eye contact.
Right, and don't make eye contact. You'll get shivved. Maybe. Actually, New York's pretty safe.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Later.
Bye, Chris. Bye, Jason.
Bye, Kevin.
Bye-bye.
See you, Jason. Bye.